Hello, my name is a Big Bubble, and I sometimes go by the name of Simon, and this is a thoughts video. Now, back 3 months ago, I said that this is probably my top game to look out for at Gen Con. This was after my top 10. Certain complications happened, don't worry about it. Anyway, this was probably my number one, and for good reason. Finally, I've got my copy, I've played it, and I just want to give you my thoughts on it. Maybe this is the type of game that you will want to play. Maybe this is the type of game that you probably won't want to play. I think you might want to. If you are at any bit interested in board games, if you're any bit interested in politics or just talking to your friends and just telling them something that you honestly think is a complete lie, this is a really good game for you. So, Twilight Imperium, you can go and watch any review and I can give you the rules explanation. These are just my general thoughts. This is the fourth game in, not the series, but it's the fourth edition of the game. So it's gone through numerous changes. The biggest thing though is the difference between third and fourth edition aren't that big. Sure, there are some great changes to it, but if you are familiar with third edition, it pretty much plays exactly the same way. On your turn, you're going to be doing, well, three things. There's a strategy phase where you'll be drafting these strategic cards, which can be anything from just getting you more people on the board or maybe going to help you do warfare a bit better. These have been changed slightly from third edition, but generally all around I like them better. They just seem more useful. Every single one of them seems a bit more useful. Even things like diplomacy or maybe the leadership tile, which now gives you 3 command points. It's just a better system. All of them have kind of been re-improved, so every single one of them feels like something you should be taking during your turn. I will say this now, I played it with 4 players. The difference between 4 players and 5 or 6 is huge. Namely, in a 4-player game, you take all of the strategic cards or strategic cardboard cards, which basically means you're going to be doing every single one of those actions. In a 5 to 6 player game, some of those cards might be missing. This kind of slows the game down. With 4 players, there's room to grow and expand. With 6 players, it can get a bit iffy, especially since a lot of the objective cards which you're trying to get will require you to have quite a large amount of resources or planets in order to do so. So I think that's the big thing. If you are going to play this game, think carefully of how many people you're going to play it with. To be fair though, if you played with 5 or 6 players, you could have a really immersive experience just trying to find your way to the end of the victory line, but I really don't think it should be played with more than 4 for a lot of time. You can get a 4-player game done in 5 hours, possibly even 4 hours, which I think is great, but if you are looking for that 6-player experience, expect a good 8-hour game. So expect a good Saturday, and I hope you have brought something for lunch. There are a few other changes that have been made to the game. Namely, there is your technology deck, which is no longer this grand, massive technology tree, but is now actually just simply, do you have a certain amount of colors? If you have, then you can do the next upgrade in that line. So if you have 1 green, you can do 2 green, or 3 green if you have 2 green already. And that's just a better system. It's far easier to see where things go into. Also, what's nice is a lot of the ship upgrades. You have your player board, which again is way better designed, but essentially any upgrade you have is just going to be replaced over it. Even on your player board itself, you can see the little yellow white arrows. Those are all the things that are going to be upgraded when you choose that upgrade. So this is a nice easy addition to the game. One of the biggest things though, which doesn't really take a lot of places, I think if you play more games of this and you get more into the politicking and more of the trade and negotiation, are these promissory notes. So these are essentially notes you can give out to players and they will basically control it for the rest of the game until you try and take it back. And these can be anything from a ceasefire, which stops you moving to a player system, to giving another player 1 point. Or every single race, and you have 17 races in the game, which I'll get to in a bit, but every single race has their own special promissory note, which is normally just a case of I won't use my special power against you. These are great, these are fantastic, but I will say it doesn't really play a lot in the first few games you're going to be playing. A lot of people won't understand the value of them the first time you play through it, and I do kind of wish that there was a bit more, I won't say balancing, but I do wish there was a bit more variety in the notes you kind of give. A lot of them are just like 1 point, 1 action. It's not that great. I would like more, I don't know if I could say long-term plans, but I would like a thing where it's like, I will give you this note, and in return, over the course of 3 turns, I get 1 trade good. I would have liked that a bit more. I think some of these are great, but they're not impactful enough. Or, I don't know. Maybe it's because I haven't played enough with them. But I will say that my group wasn't particularly drawn to them as much as they could have been. And I think it's, again, just a case of we haven't played the game enough times to actually really get enough out of them. But it's a really nice inclusion that they have taken consideration into. Again, it's another aspect that this makes the game more asymmetrical than it already is. Already you have your player powers, and they included the old technology factions. So your special racial factions, technologies, all are present in this this edition as well, and that's fantastic. So you have more asymmetry there, and then you have the promising notes, which is even more asymmetry. There's not a lot of times the game is going to play the same. What's great is included in the base game of 4th edition is all the expansion races. So I think in the TI 3rd edition you got 6 races in the base game, and then you got a whole bunch more in the expansions. In this you get 17 races off the bat, which is crazy. So that means if you play this game with 5 players 3 times, you won't play the same race twice, which is great. If you play with 4 players, you can play 4 games. It's just, it's such a nice consideration that Fantasy Flight did. Because now it's like, well, I want to get more races. I want to get the new expansion. If there's there's going to be expansion. To be fair, though, some of the things I don't like that much are the objective cards. The objective cards are great. They feel balanced, but there's not enough variance in which of them come out. A lot of them are going to ask you to have planets. A lot of them are going to ask you to have resources. And that's great. The trouble is, in a game where you're going to be using all the hex tiles, because they included enough for the galaxy, but they haven't included enough. So you don't really have enough variance in the tiles that come out. It's pretty much going to be always a case of you're going to have red tiles, and the red tiles are going to be placed next to Mercator Rex, most likely. You're going to have your blue tiles, which are the planet tiles. They'll most likely be placed closer to your home bases, and that's about it. It doesn't mean the game is particularly... it doesn't mean there's going to be a lot of conflict early on, which I think is a letdown. It means there's going to be a lot of repetition in your first few rounds. Really, you're going to be just going to those planets and taking them over. There's not going to be an early rush to get something. Likewise, your secret objective cards are all relatively nicely balanced. I think a lot of effort has been put in to make the objective cards balanced, so no player gets stuck with one that's impossible to do. And that's great. The trouble is, it doesn't feel rewarding enough. It doesn't feel like a momentous occasion when you finally pull one off. And I think a lot of that can be addressed if you get an expansion, which there most likely will be one of. But it's just a sad case of like there's 10 stage 1 objectives and you reveal 5 of them. Sure, you have the variance of how they come out, but chances are you'll most likely have all the stage 1 variants, stage 1 objectives done before you actually finish the game. So you kind of see them all, which is a real shame in a game that has a massive political deck and a massive action deck. It kind of sucks that the objectives were kind of left behind in terms of how varied they could be. And I think this comes down to the design decisions of this, like trimming out a lot of them that weren't playable. But again, I kind of wish they had more of them. And again, most likely what they will have once the expansion comes out, which we know there will be one of. It's almost undoubtable at this point. It's Fantasy Flight. We kind of already know that. The rest of the game is really straightforward. A lot of people, first time playing this, might be imposed by the rules. But honestly, it's quite a simple system. Everything is straightforward once you know how the game plays. After 2 rounds, you'll be fully aware of what everything does. A lot of the hidden rules come down to what action cards a person might be holding, or what technologies a person has bought, or even what powers a person has gotten through their race. But it's never overly complicated. There are some timing issues with certain cards. There's a lot of times where like, oh, but if you have this, does that mean... It's fine. Fantasy Flight have done this whole thing of they have the Learn to Play book, which is great if you're learning to play, but the rules reference guide is what you really want to look at if you know the game and you want to try to find out that one specific rule. it's a lot of cases where you're like, oh, what happens if we tie in objective points? It's like, okay, well, let me go find this in the rules reference, mostly because the learn to play book doesn't include it, which is kind of annoying sometimes. But once you familiarize yourself with the rules reference, it's fairly easy to pick up on what is going on. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I really need to add. For me, this is a game that is essentially an act of love. It's expensive, right? This is a $120 or $150 game, which is crazy, but you get everything in it. There's not much you could add without making the game overly immense. You know, a lot of games you see now on Kickstarter like $400 for a copy. This, you feel like you're getting your money's worth just in the base game alone, and this is a wonderful Christmas present. Now, I will say this, that if you have 3rd edition, you probably don't need 4th edition. If you have 3rd edition and you play 3rd edition a lot, probably you can stick with it, because chances are you have both expansions, you have all those variants there. This doesn't change the game up enough for you to be like, okay, let me pick up 4th edition. I really don't think that's the case. This is honestly, I think 4th edition is a case where, hey, do you know Twilight Imperium? This fantastic game of epic space combat? Then you might want to look at this. Like, if you haven't picked up Twilight Imperium by now, you want to pick this up. I feel like this is a great addition to anyone's collection. If you're looking for a robust space combat game, this is a great choice. If you're looking for a game of a fantasy and crazy characters, this is a wonderful game to have it in. You have insane races like the Liznitz Mind Net, which are these basically hive mind creatures. You have my favorite currently, which are the space pirates, the Mentak coalition, and then you even have some even weirder ones like, well, humans, because you know every game has to have humans, but you have such a wonderful collection of characters that you can be. You can be trading lions, or you can be bug-thirsty aliens, or you could be even a virus. There's a space virus that you can be. That's crazy, and that's fantastic that you can do so. If you're looking for a game that has rich and deep politicking or politics system, this game has it to a degree. One of the biggest changes is how the politics system works. In TI3, what would happen is at the end of a round, people would be able to vote on a objective or basically a law, and then it either gets passed or denied, and things happen to it. But you have to spend your planets as influence. In 4th edition, it does it a bit differently in that the agenda phase still happens at the end of a round, but you draw 2 agendas, and your planets don't get exhausted, which means essentially you can use all your planets for production, which is great. And then it comes to the agenda phase, you can use your planets to vote on agendas. The trick is, because there's always 2 agendas come out, you never know which one you really want to vote for. So what you have is a situation where someone really wants to push forward one agenda, but they have no idea what the next one is. So the one agenda might help them immensely, but then the next one, they don't have any political power to vote on it. And then all of a sudden now they are at a loss because that objective or that agenda kind of screws them in the back. But again, that's a really nice change that they made. It's not an overly complex change, and if you're familiar with 3rd edition, it's going to feel slightly different, but it's still going to feel the same game. But it's nice that they actually included it in this. It's nice that they had to make that change, and I feel like it's just good design going forward. Overall, I think Twilight Imperium is probably going to be my game of the year for next year. This entirely depends on how many times I play it. But every time I sit down and play it, I get immersed in it. I feel like I'm the faction I am because of the asymmetry. I think, what I'm going to do this game. Am I going to be aggressive? I have plans for the next game of who I want to take over. I have plans for what I want to do, even if it might not be going for those objectives. And that's great. This game encourages so much thought. One of the biggest changes now is that even the writing on the back of your race, there's so much to it. There's a nice 1.5 pages of just telling you what your people are good at. There's a lovely little quote that everyone has, which just kind of highlights what their race does. So even the humans have this wonderful quote, which is like, our enemies consider us children. They think us weak. Show them what the children of Jord can do. It's nice. They didn't have to do that, but they did, and it brings these characters, these races to life. Even though everyone has the same starships, even though everyone has the same miniatures, you feel a racial identity for who you play as because of those powers, because of the asymmetry. I think Christmas is coming up. If you have $120 to spend, get Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. Even if you are a person that really enjoys playing like heavy Euros, or maybe a person that prefers more lighter, like Sheriff of Nottingham, the Resistance style games, get this and add it to your collection. It's so good. Because even if you play it once a year, that will be one of the most memorable experiences you will have for that year. It's fantastic value for money. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. I hope you have enjoyed this first video. It has been a bit all over the place, I know. But, I mean, I just came off playing this game for 6 hours, and I am thrilled with it. And I hope you are the same when you get a chance to play it. But let me know. Maybe you think $120 is a bit too much to spend. Maybe you would like to see more changes done to the edition. Maybe you didn't think it was enough changes. Maybe you don't like the artwork. Maybe you love the artwork. Maybe you don't like space. Maybe you do like space. But let me know. As always, if you like this video, remember to hit the subscribe button and to like. It just means more views, means more visibility on YouTube, which is great, which means this video can go out to more people. And leave a comment. Let me know what you think of Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. Perhaps you're picking it up for Christmas. That's great. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.